Well, Mr. Bob Richards, how are you today?
I am great, Michael. Good day to you.
We want to welcome everybody, especially our regular podcast listeners, to Let's Get Real. Bob and I are trying something a little bit new today. We're in a new remote studio, one might say, and I would imagine in the next month we'll be back down in the other studio. But in the meantime, we are podcasting live and remote today here on Let's Get Real with Bob Richards and Associates.
Thanks, Michael. Great to be with you. Great to
Bob,
be with
it's
everybody. I hope as they're listening, I hope they find some good education and good points here today.
well, I know you've got some good stuff for us. And I know one of the things you wanted to talk with us about today is the real estate industry changes that started just last week. You want to tell us about that?
I would be glad to. There has been a number of changes that have taken place, not necessarily with buyer and seller, but a little bit, and I'll get to that. But the majority of this came from a lawsuit that was settled a number of months ago here this year. That in other states there was collusion, there was deceptive, there was practices that were being done that were not protecting the buyer or seller. There was no disclosure with regards to brokerage fees. And that made a significant difference because you had buyers going to the closing table wondering, why am I being charged this fee? Or sellers that were saying, that's not what I agreed to. I didn't agree to that much in commission. Why are you charging me that? So there was some real issues between clients and customers. And so this lawsuit ended up being about a $900 million settlement
Oh my gosh.
nationwide. Yeah. Now, when all was said and done, you know how attorneys make their money, and the only ones that win in legal matters are the attorney.
Yeah.
Well, um, each of the homeowners that were provided or that signed up in this class action suit, Michael, they ended up between getting a check for $8 or $30.
What
That was it.
out of
That's how much they made. Out
out
of
of
$900 million, these attorneys pretty much got all of it when you think of it. I mean, yes, there's probably obviously less than 900 million, but for what their fees were and time and everything else that they charged, each homeowner, and there was thousands of homeowners, they got somewhere between about 8 and $30.
well, that's definitely worth it for someone, but not the homeowner, isn't it?
No. Yeah, how's that working for you, Mr. and Mrs.
Wow.
Homeowner, after this lawsuit? So now these homeowners are going after the attorneys, but we won't get into that. That's not for today. Well, let me kind of explain what that
Yeah.
ended up being. First of all, on our MLS system, we are able to, or were able to until last week, show what the buyer agent commission was. Now, the total listing commission, that is between the seller and the listing agent, the seller's agent. That commission is established prior to the home going on market and being listed for sale. With that
Oh,
amount, I'm just going to use 6% here.
yeah.
With that amount, it's been typical that there was a 50-50 split if there was another brokerage involved who may have represented the buyer in this transaction. So 3%, let's say to Berkshire Hathaway, 3% to the other brokerage, whether it be, Coldwell Banker, C21, Remax, these other brokerages. Well, now, as of last week, that brokerage fee on the MLS is gone. It's no
Wow.
longer showing up. So I don't know if I'm showing a home, if I'm even going to get paid. Now, my goal obviously is to help the customer, but I also need to make a living. Now, I can't revert back to that page and say, oh, okay, if I sell them this house, this is basically what I'm going to be getting. I have to now call every agent prior to showing any home and asking them, hey, what is your what's called a co-op fee, meaning of your agreement with your seller? How much of that now is being paid to a buyer's agent like myself? If they're only paying 1.5%, maybe a dollar, they could do a penny as low as that, or even zero, quite honestly. then if that's the case, then the difference between, say, a 2.5 and 3%, if I've been hired by the buyer's agent to represent them, then they pay the extra 0.5% to my brokerage. So a total of
Um,
3% is collected, 2.5 being offered by the seller, the buyer making up the other 0.5% to 3%. Whoa, that's one big scenario. Now that there's other issues that
wow.
come along with this, Michael, but can you kind of see this mushroom cloud starting to
Yeah.
build and build and build? So there's one area there that is of change. Now, uh, one question that's brought up here that I jotted down, you mean the customers have to change and realtors have to change how business is done? Yeah, kind of. What we're now sending out to our sellers is, hey, business is as usual. We're not doing anything different. We're not lessening our marketing and advertising and promotion to and in behalf of you as our seller, but the brokerage fees are now outlined differently, and here's that outline of how that looks. Then they sign that, and we continue to do business as usual. Now, there will be brokerages that go to the bottom, and they're going to seek everything that they can to get to a very low commission rate. But does that incentivize the buyer wanting to show that listing? No, it doesn't. So I ask sellers, do you want to play in the pool or do you want to play in the ocean? Meaning, is your
Yeah.
agents from a pool, or are they coming from an ocean where you're getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more participating in the sale of the home rather than just a few who might be swimming in a pool?
This is confusing to say the least. So I need, how did all
It
this come
is.
about? I mean, did somebody just get upset and go, we're going to sue these guys? Or what made these changes come about?
It did, and that's where things came about, where the disclosure part of things up front in the listing agreement and in the buyer broker agreement, and then the settlement statement, in many, many, many instances, were not consistent. They didn't
Wow.
equal out what was promised and what was listed on the closing statement. Oftentimes was different. And so the seller was confused, the buyer was confused. Why didn't anybody tell me? Why wasn't this transparent? That's what happened. Now, Utah was kind of interesting, Michael. We've been way ahead of that. We've had full transparency with our sellers and our buyers based upon the documents we have them sign.
Mhm.
But we're part of the 50 states, and so we're all dragged into this lawsuit. But quite honestly, like I say, business is kind of usual for us. We just have to change with a couple of different forms that now the Association of Realtors has provided to us.
So
It
I
does.
heard
Go
something
ahead.
interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your thought
Go
there.
ahead.
Okay. So something I heard interesting that I don't know if it affects Utah or everyone, but I had some relatives down in California, and I don't know if they're doing the same procedure up here in Utah. But what they did, they were out looking for a home. And so they went to an open house. And before the realtor would allow them in the open house and show it to them, even allow them to walk through, they had to sign a form that said they would promise to pay the commission if in the event that the realtor didn't pay a commission. Is that a true thing? Is that
It
important?
actually is. Can you believe that? So let's get real, Michael. Can you can understand the complications of all of this? We're learning literally daily about this and any changes that are continuing to happen. We've got another meeting in 2 weeks for more updates. This is a snowball of confusion and really is not healthy for the industry as a whole, but it is what we're doing. And I guess especially from Utah, where it's just like, well, we've been doing this all the time. Why
Yeah.
penalize us? But again, we all have to conform. But yes, before I can take or meet somebody at a house and show them through, they have to sign a buyer agency agreement, showing agreement that says that I will be representing them should they be interested in buying this particular home or homes that I show them. Now, that showing agreement enters into a buyer broker arrangement that then says, if you are going to be pursuing working with me, there is the possibility that you will be paying my fee at closing. My fee is 3%. So now that's disclosed up front. So at least the buyer understands that if there's not a co-op or minimal co-op from the listing brokerage, they're going to have to make up the difference. So that's
Wow.
yeah. Now let's talk first-time home buyers, Michael. Let's
Yeah.
get real about that market here in Southern Utah. You mean to tell me that somebody that's getting their first-time home, say around $450,000,
Yeah.
while they're working two jobs and part-time graveyard. I mean, it's hard to afford a home in Southern Utah.
Yeah.
But let's say that they are just scraping the barrel, and then you're saying, "Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, it's a delight to work with you. Congratulations on getting this new home or this first-time home. By the way, we need to add 3% onto the purchase price to pay my fee for assisting you in this purchase." Well, that may cancel the ability for that buyer to actually buy the house. And
Mm.
they also have to raise the price now to cover that 3% fee. And they may not have it. And now you're in a situation as to, okay, now what do I do? There has to be compensation to the brokerage working with that buyer and to the seller as well. But if the buyer can't facilitate that, it causes more discussion and potential feelings and certainly a financial crunch on the buyer now that's now paying 3% more on the purchase price than what they had anticipated paying.
Wow. Okay, so I have questions, and I know that you can answer them. So in the olden days, and I think like before last week, I know that
Exactly, yeah.
generally speaking, when let's say that I'm a buyer, no, let's say that I'm selling my house, okay, and I work with um, Susie Q
Mhm.
as she from XYZ brokerage, so and she has listed my house. Normally, Susie says the 6% fee, the realtor's commission, it's just kind of built into the price. And it's generally been understood that the seller's agent gets 3% and the buyer's agent gets 3%, with a few exceptions here and there. But that's the
Right.
general rule of thumb. And so everybody knows, okay, well, this is going to come out of the seller's pocket and this is what's going on. And we sign the contract and we're done. Now, what I'm hearing is that maybe the seller will offer 6% commission and maybe they won't. And let's say that I don't even have a realtor. I'm just a first-time home buyer, and my wife and I were driving around, and we go, "Oh, look, there's a lovely home for sale, and it's got an open house. Let's go in." So we go into the open house, and the realtor says, "Okay, this is great. We're glad you're here. We need you to sign these documents to make sure that because if a seller's agent doesn't pay the full 6%, that you guys have to pay the 3% or negotiate it with your real estate agent." Well, who's your
Hmm.
real estate agent? Well, I don't have a real estate agent. We're just out driving around and
Yeah.
want to look at the house. So what happens? Do I, as the first time home buyer, do I need to go out and get a realtor and then go do the open house? What do I do in that situation?
Really, really good question, Michael. And that's another change here. What happens if the buyer looking at the open house home has an interest in buying it, but they don't have an agent and wish to not have an agent? They become what's called a non-represented or unrepresented buyer. Now, that representation literally means no representation. So the listing agent cannot provide any sort of price information, any square footage information, home inspection information, who to call for an appraisal, who to call for a mortgage, who to talk to about whatever it might be able to acquire the home. They are literally on their own.
Oh my
Now,
gosh.
that's going to create some issues and potential. Well, why didn't you tell me? Well, you were not represented. I didn't have to tell you. My exclusive agency was with that seller. You opted to not get a buyer's agent, nor have me be a limited agent with you. And so, yeah, I'm sorry for what happened, but that's your own decision for not having a realtor. Much better for an agent, or excuse me, for a buyer to find a realtor that's extremely qualified in
Yeah.
handling this situation and represent them as their exclusive buyer broker. Otherwise, like I say, the seller, excuse me, the buyer is on their own, on their
Wow.
own. Yeah.
So let me take it one step further. Let's say that I'm a first-time home buyer or any time home buyer,
Mhm.
and I happen to do a couple of smart things. Number one is I went out and got you as my realtor to represent me in the
Mhm.
purchase. Number two, I went out and talked to a mortgage company and I got pre-qualified and pre-approved. So I'm ready to rock and roll. So I go into the open house and they go, okay, I just need you to sign this form so you can go through the open house, what we talked about. And then I'm sure on the form it will say, do you have a realtor? Are you represented by somebody? And I would say,
Right.
oh, yes, I'm represented by Bob Richards. Okay. So I would put that on the little form. Now, when I do that, do I need to call you or contact you or text you and say, hey, Bob, Mary Jo and I are going to take a walk through this property here. I put you down as our agent. Is that okay with you? And I, I mean, is that how that works? Do I need to call you or I just put your name on the list and we just go through the property and maybe the selling agent calls you and go, hey, Bob, I got you down as the representing these buyers. And
Right.
you go, I've never heard of them. I don't know who they are. So now what?
Sometimes that happens, and they call up and say, "Hey, our friends Billy, Bob, and Joan recommended you. We've been out looking around at homes. We've not met with you before, but our friends say that you're the guy to work with." And so when we went through this open house, we listed you as our agent. When can we get together? Or I'll say, "Hey, we need to get together and
Yeah.
review some things of my responsibility to you, as you've listed me as your buyer's agent." As well as the overall process and what changes in that process now with this new relationships between seller and listing agent and buyer's agent. So yeah, we can absolutely do that. And certainly a text is nice to say, hey, we're in this open house. I may need to call you or I may not to as their agent. But that communication back and forth is, oh my gosh, Michael, so critical in a real estate transaction that both parties are continually communicating with each other as to what's going on, what's transpired, and where they're headed.
So as a home buyer, then I would need to make sure that I'm communicating with you at all times. Hey, we're looking at this house, looking at this house, or I could just say,
Yeah.
"Hey, Bob, we're going to go look at houses. You want to come with us, or you want to meet us over there, or how do?"
Right, right. And the buyer broker agreement, Michael, that takes place of that showing agreement so that now we have a firm established contractual relationship with each other. I can show anything you want to. And doesn't matter anything as far as what the seller's offering or not. It states in that contract, Bob's your exclusive realtor. Bob's fee is 3%. If the listing agent isn't offering 3% or less than 3%, then you as a buyer with your exclusive realtor, Bob Richards, will make up any difference up to 3%.
Wow.
That's basically what the form states. And then once we have that relationship together, I, as always, need to disclose any factual information about the home, get you a home inspection, get you the proper appraiser, line you up with a mortgage person that's going to be the best to work with, help you with, well, any questions during the process as well. Review home inspection items once the inspection's done, get any information about floodplain, utilities, mold, pests, mice, whatever. And then that way you're making an informed, educated decision rather than just being on your own, thinking,
Yeah.
oh, I'll save money. Well, that saving of money could cost you thousands, if not tens of thousands, of bad decisions.
So I have another question to ask. I hope you don't mind
Mhm.
about this. So,
Oh, not at all.
let's say that I've contracted with you as my realtor.
Mhm.
Excuse me there. I'm getting a little dry throat. A contractor with you is my realtor. I've signed the form. We've looked at the property. Everything is ready to go. Sorry. And hey, we're live, folks. What can I say?
Yeah,
So, but let's say that something happens in our relationship. And even though we've got this agreement going on, and I want to make sure that all the potential bases are covered because I'm sure this will probably come up. But let's say that I'm ready to go on this property, and you know what? We're ready to make the deal like right now. We're ready to go. The seller's ready to go. The offer's been accepted, and I'm ready to go. And I need you to come help me make this thing happen. But you're not available because you're at a Sammy Hagar concert.
uh, which
And I
was
love
last week
that.
and awfully good.
Yeah, we'll give Sammy a free plug there because we
There you
like
go.
it. So, and they say, well, Bob's not around. He's at the Sammy Hagar concert. And so, uh, I don't know what I'm going to do here, but Larry Schmickendorf is available. So I'm going to cancel my deal with Bob and get Mr. Schmickendorf to do it so I can get this house. It
Mhm.
is that a realistic, perhaps plausible scenario. And what would I do in a situation like that?
Frankly, loyalty is really key here, Michael, in the fact that if that agent is not available, there should be some sort of a backup or somebody that's pinch hitting for him or her while they're away or unavailable. Let's say they're in the middle of Africa on a safari and not so much cell service there in Africa, I would
Yeah.
imagine. But if they've got somebody that's taking care of their business while they're away, then it shouldn't have any sort of a hiccup, but also very important on on the buyer's end to say, you know what, we've committed to work with our realtor. We need to continue to
Yeah.
work with our realtor, and so let's call the office and find out. Hey, Bob's gone to the Sammy Hagar concert again, which was really good last week, and so is there somebody that can pinch hit for him as we go through this process of purchasing this house until he returns? The broker ultimately would be the one that would be able to assist you if the agent didn't have an assistant, a licensed partner, something along those lines.
Wow.
So I hate to come back from vacation or getting away for some period of time and coming back to say, oh, here's a note on my desk that says the so and so's bought a home over the weekend because you were not available.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of hurts because we've established that relationship. We've been working together. Again, that loyalty and confidence in each other works both ways.
Right. Well, that's really, really good information. I'm glad we had this conversation today. We may have to have another one of these conversations. But
I wouldn't doubt it.
before we do that, I understand that you have a delightful new listing that you would like to share with us. And
I do. I do.
and I'm going to do this right now, and we'll
Okay.
see if you can tell us all about this listing we've got right here. What do we
This
got?
is so cool. Don't you love the elevations on this? Absolutely love the
Oh, it's
architecture. This
gorgeous.
is in a It's in a subdivision called Navario, which is on the west side of town, just a little bit south of the Sunbrook Golf Course.
Yeah.
The subdivision's elevated, so it's like a mesa that gets stepped up, stepped up, stepped up. So everybody is kind of uh, well, they have a little bit different view. As the higher you go, the bigger the view, but also your backyard neighbors are sitting down below, so their roof line isn't bothering or interrupting your view.
Oh,
It's phenomenal. So here's a view in this cul-de-sac of this home, brand new. It's been lived in about 3 weekends, and life changes, and so there's an interest for the seller to sell. It's 2645 square feet, all one level. As you can see, a nice 3-car garage. It's on a half-acre lot,
wow.
and it has 4 bedrooms, 4 baths. It's available furnished, and it's got all the bells and whistles. 1.299 is what the list price is on it now. We just reduced it $100,000 today to the
Wow.
1.29. So furniture pack is available. If somebody wanted just to have a turnkey house and say, hey, we'll take the whole thing lock, stock, and barrel, we absolutely can facilitate that as well. So
Oh, that's good.
all the goodies, bells and whistles, a little casita on the front left of the home. Look how
That's
the
nice.
gorgeous, the landscaping is nice. It's all desert scape in the backyard with artificial turf. There's not a lawn to be mowed. There's easy to pull a couple of weeds in the backyard when they come up. And one of the nicest features about this, Michael, is
Yeah.
all of that land back behind the house is BLM.
Wow.
BLM. So you can go walking and hiking and take the dog out for you take yourself out for a walk, but all of that land back behind the house is BLM. And so there's oodles of things to go see and trails to walk on, et cetera, et cetera.
That's
So
gorgeous.
love this house.
The
Yeah, it's a
casita
winner.
is nice. This looks well. This is more of a loggia, wouldn't you think? The
Uh,
nice backyard area. That's gorgeous.
oh, it's just really, really well done.
All this furniture comes with it.
It's available and it's going to be a little bit extra price, but a very reasonable price. So if somebody, hey, I'm not a decorator, I don't want to go to Boulevard, I don't want to go here and there to shop for furniture. I don't have time. Yeah, I just love to buy something that's already turnkey and ready. And this is not Walmart furniture. It is
No,
not IKEA furniture. It is first class, top of the line furniture package here for a buyer that appreciates quality of the home and of the furniture.
it's a nice master bedroom too.
Yeah, it really
Very, very
is. It
nice.
really is.
This one
Thick.
shot here. Oh, hang on here. Oh, no,
Uh-huh.
it's the last one, but that's okay. I really, really like that. That's a gorgeous house. Where's that located again?
It's in the DeVario subdivision. The actual address is 3109 Cingoli, which is Cingoli Court. But again, if you mention anybody DeVario, they'll direct you where you need to be.
Got it. Well, Mr. Bob, we're about out of time today, but if somebody is interested in this home, how can they get a hold of you?
Easy peasy, 435-703 Utah. That's 435-703-8824. Call me, text me, shoot me an email at bob@buyutah.com. And understand, folks, if there's any questions about what we talked about today, oh my goodness, there's more layers to this to also share with you that we cannot cover in a normal short podcast as
Yeah,
this. But is there more? Just like the infomercials, wait, there's more. Yes, there
there's
is.
more. Well, Mr. Bob, thank you very much. I do want to let the folks know in our next podcast, you're going to be telling us more about what's going on with the current state of the market.
Yes, sir.
We would like to invite everybody to, if you'd like to watch all of Bob's podcast or learn, hear this again or learn more about what's going on in our local real estate market, you visit Bob's website at buyutah.com and just click the podcast link up there in the upper right-hand corner, or you can find Bob on YouTube, YouTube at buyutah.com. Mr. Bob, thank you so much. And
Thanks, Michael.
we'll see you again soon with another podcast on the state of the market.
Thank you.